What's going on, traders? This is Travis Witherspoon. Hopefully you're doing very well today. What I'm going to get ready to do in this video is be able to show you how to be able to use the tools on smarttrader.com. There's a lot of different tools that you can be able to use. There's a lot of different things that you need to be able to understand. But once you end up understanding this overall charting platform, I don't think there's any better charting platform on the market today that goes through and does some of the tools that it has. So what I'm going to do, hopefully in this short video, to truly show you all of the tools that you can be able to use on Smart Trader, breaking down every different icon, kind of giving you an idea about what it is, and then after that, kind of going from there. Hopefully, if you have any questions or anything else like that, obviously drop a comment inside of the section. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe as always as we go through this. So, over on the left-hand side, first off, what you're going to end up seeing is your overall workspace. Your workspace is an area to where you can be able to have different folders or different charts that you end up putting together. The way that you end up getting that done, if you end up right-clicking, going to the screen, or let's say you end up going to the workspace over on this side, you can be able to get rid of or be able to add on workspaces inside of this area. Down at the bottom, you click on Add Workspace. Essentially, what you can be able to do is actually name it, and then after that, be able to create different workspaces inside of there. Now, essentially, what a workspace does is that, let's say you end up having a group of charts that you want to be able to put together, or a group of pairs that you want to be able to put together, whether it's one chart or 6 charts or anything else like that. I'm using the free version, so obviously with the paid version, you can be able to add on a little bit more of that chart. But with the workspace, essentially it allows you to be able to group all of the different trading pairs together. So let's say if you want to take a look at the Euro basket, or in this case, a New Zealand dollar basket, or anything else like that, you can group those pairs together so you can make sure that you keep those organized. So that's what that is for. Obviously, you can click on the plus button over here on the left-hand side to be able to go from there and click that on as well. On the bottom, you'll end up seeing Marketplace. What Marketplace does is leads you to another portal that allows you to be able to add on some of the things that Smart Trader has. Smart Traders is a tool that is created by Market Trader Institute. If you want to take a look at some of that information or some of their groups and mentorship or programs, then obviously you can be able to go from there and take a look at that. After that, what you end up having is share ideas. With your share ideas, you can be able to look at and browse idea types. You can share this as an overall idea once you end up getting done with it. You can look at different scripts. You can look at different ideas that ends up going along with that. They've done a very good job of being able to add that stuff on over the course of the last 5 years. From there, you end up having your trading function. Your trading function allows you to be able to manage your accounts, place in different orders, check and see what's going on with your order info, and then obviously with the paid version, being able to take a look at your basket and being able to do basket trading. If you don't know what basket trading is, essentially you're picking a currency pair and you're saying, okay, well, I believe this currency pair is stronger than every other currency pair, so I'm going to look to be able to only buy the US dollar versus every other currency pair, or whatever may be the case. So that's what that is. From there, you end up having your global alerts. The global alerts are different alerts that you end up placing, going to the charts that this basically keeps a record of all of the ones that you end up placing in. You can be able to turn them on, you can be able to turn them off, and after that, they can be able to send you signals from there. If you're doing a free version, I think you can be able to do one of them. But either way, what happens is that once you end up going in and clicking on edit, you can type in whatever the alert will end up being. You can give it a sound. You can be able to say when it's going to end up happening, and then after that, save and run and be able to place that on. So that's what that is for when it comes down to your global alerts. Then after that, you end up having your support section. Your support section is any question that you may have based off of the chart, being able to answer those questions, being able to place that in. And then from the bottom, you end up having your profile view to be able to place that on. On the left-hand side, you can be able to toggle your account bar. Essentially, if you end up having more accounts on the actual screen, then after that, you can be able to add more stuff on and be able to go from there. You have your full screen down at the bottom, so you can click on to be able to make it full screen. You have your icons up at the top if that's something that intrigues you for being able to place that in. If you don't want that, then obviously you can be able to leave that out the way. Obviously, I'm in the way when it comes down to that. Let me get off the screen and show you that again. You want to be able to do that. Obviously, there goes your full screen. There goes your toggle screen if you want to be able to change that actually on the screen. So let's talk about everything that's in this middle section on this gray area. From here, you end up having your theme settings. Your theme settings is what your chart actually looks like. You can be able to set it up as a customized theme, as I have, or you can be able to go with light, dark, or any other screens that ends up making it work out for you. One of the biggest things that I always like to be able to do, at least for me, because I don't like necessarily having dark screens. I actually end up going with gray screens because it's kind of a mix of being able to have it bright but just dark enough to where it's not going to end up messing up your eyes. If you're a person that stares at the chart a lot, going with a darker type of chart actually helps you out when it comes down to making sure that you have less eye strain. From there, the A is your actual text button. Essentially, it's exactly what you would do with anything else. You click on the text button, you'll find an area to be able to place in your text. Down here at the bottom, what you'll end up seeing is that you have your font size, you have your different type of style when it comes down to your font. You have bold, italic, anything underlined, and then after that, paint colors and all other stuff that you can be able to place in. From there, on the left-hand side, up at the top, is your Add Indicators button. Your Add Indicators button allows you to be able to take a look at all of the indicators that they have on here for free. What you can be able to do is basically click on Star to be able to say, okay, these are my favorite ones. And let's say, hypothetically, if you wanted to be able to add one on and you want to be able to click on, you can click onto the actual item, and then after that, it will end up showing up on the screen. Once you show it up on the screen, then after that, you can do a couple things. You can change the visibility, which means that you can be able to hide it if you want to. You can be able to go to add alert, depending on the alerts that you want to be able to add on and be able to place that in. Obviously, with a paid version, you can be able to get a little bit more off of that. You can be able to change the order of it, so you can make it be in the front or in the back or whatever may be the case when it comes down to that. And then after that, you can be able to show your settings about what you want to be able to have. Now, turning these on and turning these off allows you to be able to change the settings just slightly to fit whatever your overall need is when it comes down to being able to look at this from the chart. So for me, if I'm looking at Trend Finder, I want to be able to understand, okay, well, when at the bullish markets, when at the bearish markets, where are we at this particular point? I will want to be able to have the colors on, but I don't like necessarily having it that bright when it comes down to a color. So let's say when it comes down to the colored candles, let's make it a darker green. And let's make this overall line series that same darker green if we want to be able to do that. We can click on Save, and then after that, it will end up changing it up to where it fits your overall identity of what you want to be able to have on your charts. And being able to go from there. So if you want to remove it, you can click on the X and be able to get off of that. From there, you end up having your smart scripts. Essentially what your smart scripts is if you decided to be able to pay for it from a premium section, you can be able to get all of that information on. If it's locked, then that means that you're not able to use it. If it's unlocked, then that means that you can. Essentially what you end up doing is clicking on play the script. Once you end up playing the script, then after that, you can be able to go from there. Obviously, you can be able to pay for some of these items if you really wanted to. Me personally, because I have my own trading style and I don't necessarily use any of these, then I don't necessarily pay attention to those as much. Now, let's get into some of the other tools. You have your measure tool. What your measure tool does is allows you to be able to pick a spot from one candlestick to another and be able to see how many pips or points, depending on the type of trading pair that you're looking at, that you're actually seeing. So if you notice, what I ended up doing was I left clicked at the top of this item. Then after that, I just hold on my mouse all the way down to the bottom. And essentially what I ended up having, once I ended up letting go, was a range, and it told me that it was negative 3,787 pips in 10 bars. So over the course of the last 10 months, the market has basically moved negative 3,700 pips from that overall movement. That's how you can be able to check and see what your stop loss is going to end up being, what your take profit is going to end up being, or you can be able to figure out where your support and natural resistance will end up being from there. After that, you end up having your magnetic tool. Essentially what your magnetic tool is allows you to be able to click on items or be able to click on different icons or different things a little bit quicker, because you're basically saying that the magnet is going to end up snapping you on to that point and being able to go from there. Speaking of being able to do things a little bit quickly, the auto select. If you click on auto select and you end up turning on an item, let's say we click on this up arrow. And if we want to keep on placing in up arrows, essentially auto select will keep the item on to be able to do that. If you turn off auto select and I try to go and try to click on one different up arrow, now I cannot do it because I have to keep on clicking on that up arrow to be able to get it started. So you're interested in being able to do that, obviously you have to click on auto select to be able to get it done. From there, you have your visibility showing hide drawings. You can click on that to be able to hide out any information that you may have had being out on the screen. So to give you an example, let's go with this big old dot. Let's say I place a dot right here and I make it as large as possible, being able to show in that area. If I want to get rid of that, all I have to do is show and hide drawings and then unhide the drawing to be able to get it to be able to show up and not show up on the actual screen. From there, You end up having to take a photo. What you can be able to do is save it as an image. It will save onto your file as a JPEG. From there, you can use it to be able to share ideas or do anything else like that for whatever your needs may end up being. From here, you end up having delete selected drawings or basically delete all of the indicators that may be on the screen. Some people may end up wanting to use that because they end up getting into an overall currency pair. They got done with the homework and they would like to keep a screen somewhat clean. You can be able to do that as well. Now, at the top of the screen, what you end up seeing is the actual currency pair. What you can be able to do is click onto that currency pair, and then after that, you can scroll down or you can type in what you want. So let's say if we want to take a look at the pound United States dollar, I could type in and click on pound United States dollar. Or you want to focus in on all Forex pairs. It will just show you all Forex pairs, all cryptocurrency pairs, or all stocks, depending on whatever your needs may end up being from there. The next one on the right hand side will end up being your time frames. Obviously, anything when it comes down to M will end up being minutes. Anything that ends up having H will end up being hours. Then after that, you end up having a letter D for day, W for week, and then after that, MN for month, and then Y for year, depending on what you're trying to do for your overall charts and being able to add that on. On the right hand side, what you end up seeing is your actual price style. There's 3 different price styles that they have. They have bars, which allows you to be able to take a look at it from a overall open and close standpoint and being able to see the body of work. You end up having Japanese candlesticks. What the candlesticks basically end up doing is showing you the open, high, low, and close price again, but these patterns actually end up giving you identifiers on what could potentially happen for potential U-turn positions and being able to get in. So that's a good thing to be able to pay attention to. And one of my favorite when it comes down to being able to understand what's happening with price action is being able to take a look at a line chart. If you take a look at a line chart, essentially what you can be able to see with that overall line is where's your natural support and where's your natural resistance based off of being able to see based off of being able to plot in horizontal lines to be able to show you exactly where the items actually are. So this will kind of let you know if you're in the buy zone, sell zone, or in this case where you're going to end up finding huge support in this overall area to be able to place in a buy or place in a sell depending on whatever may be the situation and be able to go from there. Or over on the right hand side of that is compare ag signal. Essentially compare ag signal is basically adding in a instrument. So let's say we want to add in the euro versus the United States dollar to be able to take a look at what's happening with that chart compared to what's happening with other charts. Essentially what you end up having is that you have one chart. We change these to candlesticks. You have one chart that's basically going in one direction. You have another chart that's basically going in the opposite, especially if they're negatively correlated. If they're positively correlated, then they're basically going in the same direction. The way that you can be able to turn this off is by clicking on this item. You can click on overlay when it comes down to the main chart and be able to get off of it, or on the middle of the screen, what you can be able to do is exit off of that and be able to get rid of that signal. From here, you have your zoom in. Essentially what your zoom in is allowing you to be able to focus in on certain areas as long as you end up just left clicking inside of that area to be able to see what it is. If you want to zoom out, you can use your mouse to be, or if your mouse has a ball, you can be able to roll it out to be able to see what happens. You can roll it in. Let's try that one more time. You can roll it out to see what happens. You can roll it in to be able to see how the market is actually reacting based off of that area. From here, you have your undo, which is basically anything like you see in any type of word program or anything else like that. Or you have your redo, which allows you to be able to go back to a previous function from there. After that, you end up having your cursor type. Your cursor type allows you to be able to click with an arrow, allows you to click with an arrow with an overall marker and be able to place that in when it comes down to movement, or being able to go with crosshairs. So instead of just being able to have the arrow, you can be able to have the crosshairs to be able to give you an identifier easily where that market actually is, or where that point actually is. From there, let's go into the smart tools, and I'm only going to talk about the smart Fibonacci on this one because that's the one that I primarily use. But we will get through channel and all other stuff very quickly. But with the smart tool, essentially what it does is it allows you to be able to place in your Fibonacci sequence on the charts without having to go through the haggle of being able to figure out everything and plotting everything in from your A to B movement. So essentially, let's say if this was the fractal high and we get into our smart fibs right here, we end up placing it directly at the top of the mouse to be able to look at bearish movement to where you can see where you're at when it comes down to a bottom over swing. Or what we can be able to do if we want to look at bullish movement, we can go to a fractal low when it comes down to that bullish movement, use the same fractal tool, but make sure that we put our mouse below it and below the actual candlestick wick to be able to show us exactly where we are when it comes down to the up fibs. Now, the way that you can be able to tell where you currently are when it comes down to the up fibs and which one is the actual market live, where you're at this particular point in time and what swing you're in, is that you can see the actual color that goes along with it. The color represents the overall sweet spot zone, especially in red. Then after that, your yellow area is basically a discretion area of being able to say, okay, well, if I'm interested in being able to buy or sell right here, this is not necessarily the greatest spot to be able to get in. Sweet spots always allow you to be able to get good risk versus reward when it comes down to being able to trade, and allows you to be a little bit more patient because you want to be able to make sure that you get inside of this area before you decide to be able to trade from there. So hopefully that makes sense when it comes down to that. The next one will end up being a smart channel. If you have a smart channel, you end up clicking going to one area, you just want to see if there is a channel somewhere else, you can click on that, and from there it will try to see if there's any type of area that you have for the overall smart tool and just a channel in general. I don't particularly use channels, so that's not one of the ones that I would particularly use. I'll actually use the rectangle tool to be able to do that. From there, your smart support will end up telling you where the nearest support that has been hit at, and it will basically end up telling you the actual number and the actual nearest support when it comes down to that. You do that again, you can be able to see what the smart resistance is. So this would be your AB type of tool. Obviously, remember, anytime that the market ends up breaking a resistance, it will go to a new resistance. Anytime that the market will end up breaking a support, it will fall to a new support. So by being able to know what a new support and resistance are, that allows you to be able to figure out an area where you can be able to take profit at very quickly, or take profit at with confidence, because you know that the market is going to gravitate toward that area anyway. From there, you have your weekly encapsulation. What your weekly encapsulation does is that if you're on a daily chart, it will look at the last 5 days and it will place a box in within those last 5 days so you can be able to see exactly what the market is. The reason why you want to be able to do that is because that, let's say we see these encapsulations that end up happening the last 2 weeks. We've seen a lot of consolidation from this area. Well, if it breaks this encapsulation to the downside, then it's going to move to the next encapsulation, which will end up being the last time that it has some support, down to the next area where the market end up having some support. Going back to what we end up saying with support and resistance. By being able to identify that, you can be able to know or have a game plan to be able to how to trade down to that overall area. Then after that, you have candle overlay. Essentially what candle overlay is basically, it places in the candle in front of some spot depending on what's happening with the overall time frame. So we're looking at this from a weekly perspective, and look at our candlesticks from there. We can see this is what the candlestick would have been based off of that overall movement. So we're looking at a daily chart, but the candle overlay represents what it looks like from a weekly perspective, so you can be able to get an idea of what's happening between both of those charts and being able to understand direction between both of those charts. So I'm going to end up getting off of that and undoing that real quick so we can be able to move forward, but that's what that is for. From there, you end up having your trend lines. Remember, your trend lines are basically set up to where you can be able to identify if you have a bearish undertone or a bullish undertone based off of the trend line. Essentially, what you end up wanting to do is basically go to the fractal low, and then after that, go to the nearest point or the lowest low from there, connect those 2 points, and then after that, be able to project out. You can do the same thing, but you can be able to do it a little bit quicker by left-clicking, going to an item, and then after that, going to the next fractal low, and from there, you can right-click onto that item and click on extend. And then after that, it will do it for you. So now you just create your outer trend line, and then after that, you created your inner trend line. If you want to go a little bit more in depth when it comes down to this, we can click on this item right here, move it to the next lowest low, then after that, project out. And now you have an inner trend line, an innermost trend line that was broken to where you see your innermost trend line goes to your inner trend line, and then after that, typically goes to your outer trend line based off of that movement. So that's what trend lines are for. Now, from there, down at the bottom, you're having your ray. Your ray is basically giving you an overall angle. You have a horizontal ray, which allows you to be able to have one horizontal line with a grip. You have a horizontal line that you can be able to place in, which essentially that's exactly what it is, where you can click on and be able to move it into areas where you want to be able to find support and resistance, or find the common areas where price actually was. You have your vertical lines where you can be able to click onto an area and just move this vertical line to be able to see if it matches up with what's happening with some of the personal indicators. So we're looking at this being in a sell zone. We have a vertical line right here. We try to find our highest point at that particular area. Now we have a particular price that we can be able to take a look at based off of being able to have the vertical line. From there, the next item would end up being your overall rectangle. Essentially what you do with your rectangle is you start off left click in one area, left click and drag, and then after that left click again to be able to create that rectangle in the inside. You want to take a look at how you can be able to use the triangle. Essentially a triangle is a 2-point move. So you have your 1 point right there, we space out the next point, we have a third point right here. It creates your overall triangle by creating those 3 points. Typically, when you end up doing this, you're trying to see what's happening with consolidation. So you will end up going to the fractal low, fractal high, and then after that, go to the endpoint, and that will set up and create a overall area of being able to know what a triangle was. If you want to create an ellipse, it's essentially the same thing. You left click in one spot, left click in another, and then after that, close that grip and to be able to show what it looks like from an ellipse standpoint. So I'm going to get rid of both of these. Next one that we have is our angle line. Essentially what an angle line is basically shows you what is the overall angle of one candlestick towards the other and be able to go from there. And then after that, you have your freehand drawing. Essentially what your freehand drawing allows you to be able to do is either write or be able to make essentially a freehand on the actual screen. But keep this in mind, as soon as you end up letting go, you're not able to do that again. So it's more important that you want to write down a whole bunch of notes, or you're going to end up keeping on being able to use your you'll be able to use your drawing tool to be able to have some more items. Make sure you click on auto select to be able to keep that item on while it's doing it. Okay. From there, over to the right hand side, you have your regular Fibonacci's. Now let me show you the difference between a regular Fibonacci and a smart Fibonacci. With the regular Fibonacci, you have to click on the actual fractal low, and then after that, hold it and be able to go to a fractal high, and then after that, left click from there to be able to have your own Fibonacci's that's been placed on. Remember, Smart Fibs does it a little bit easier. It allows you to be able to click onto an item, click on Smart Fib, only go to the fractal low, and from the fractal low, it will create the overall ABCD sequence for you and keep on projecting as the completion of the Fibonacci's are done. So let's say if you're on your third Fibonacci's, it will show you what the third one actually is. You'll be able to go from there. From there, Fibonacci arcs, ellipse, retracements, fan, Fibonacci time zones, and extensions are things that I personally don't use. But they have a lot of great stuff on them. If you want to take a look at some trading view videos or anything else like that, it'll show you exactly what that is. From there, you end up having your King's Crown. Remember, your King's Crown shows U-turns and reverses. Essentially, what you end up doing is that it's a 6-click type of move. So we end up left-clicking on one spot, left-click on another. That is your left tip, right? From here, we left-click right here. We go to our center tip and place a spot inside. And let's say that now the center tip has to break the A. Once it breaks the A, then after that, we move our right tip. Typically, our right tip somewhat matches up with our left. Once we left click right there and bring it down, then after that, it will create a dark side. It will create a dark portion in there. Now, keep in mind, when you're creating a King's Crown, the only thing that is different with a King's Crown is this. If we go left tip and go down and we create our center tip, but our center tip does not break our A, and we try to go right tip right here, then it will not highlight because the rule was not broken, or the A was not broken from this C movement right here. Now, if you move this down and show that it is below the A, then after that, it will create your overall crown inside. So this is an identifier that allows you to be able to understand where key U-turns are about to happen and where a new phase of ABCD swings are going to happen from the opposite side of the overall direction. From there, Head and Shoulders tools is another one of those tools that allows you to be able to just click onto it, left click for the left shoulder, left click for the head, and then after that, the head will actually create a line. As long as this line right here is horizontal and all of them are somewhat parallel when it comes down to that position, then it will highlight each one. Right shoulder typically matches up with the left shoulder, but let's say let's place it a little bit higher. As soon as it ends up breaking that overall line or that neckline, then after that, you have your area to where you know that where the market is going to end up going. Now remember, typically if you end up placing a horizontal line from the head to the neckline and then project that down, that will tell you where your overall D extension or where this signal will be closed when it comes down to a Head and Shoulders pattern. From there, you have your ABCD tool. Your ABCD tool allows you to be able to show the overall swing and what's happening with the market in a trending market. So you will left click if you're going to create the A. You'll left click where the B is or your fractal low. You'll move your mouse up to where the fractal high will be or the retracement area will be, which will be your C. And then after that, you'll project down based off of using the smart fibs or based off of using the numbers that are inside of here, depending on your way of being able to trade. Unless if you're a harmonic trader, obviously you have a different way of being able to look at it and being able to use those numbers to your advantage. From there, We have our Elliott Wave. If you're interested in Elliott Wave, you can be able to use that. Your ABCD label basically allows you to be able to place in the actual letter. You have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 label, which is essentially basically like your ABCD level and being able to show from there. You have your trend channel and Andrew's pitchfork, which basically ends up showing support and resistance in all areas. Over on the left hand side, the last thing is your different arrows and things that you want to be able to place in. Arrow up, arrow down, arrow left, arrow right, dot, square, diamond, and then after that being able to place in an image. You want to be able to place in an image, essentially what you'll do is click on image, click on the actual area. It will ask you for an image URL. You end up placing it in. It has to be based off of a website. Once you end up clicking on that and clicking on save, then after that it will place that item inside of it. It will end up being watermarked to where you don't necessarily have to be able to change up anything when it comes down to that. Hopefully this video and all 25 minutes of it ends up helping you when it comes down to being able to learn exactly what you need to learn when it comes down to Smart Trader. If you have any questions, like always, please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, ask the questions inside of the comment bar, and hopefully this ended up helping you when it came down to a quick breakdown of being able to use these Smart Trader commands. Take it easy.